Okay, so I'm just going to go through some details of your guitar. If it's an acoustic like mine, I'll do another video with an electric one as well, just to give you a breakdown. But from the headstock, we have what people refer to as machine heads or tuning pegs. They're what keep your guitar in tune, or if you treat them badly, they will put your guitar out of tune. They come across what's known as the nut, okay? And then you have your what people refer to as a fretboard or a fingerboard. The metal parts of it are actually what the frets are. People often think that the space in between are the frets. It's all the fingerboard, all the wood is the fingerboard, and the metal part are the frets. And here you've got the sound hole, where obviously when you strum, sound goes inside the guitar because it's hollow body, it resonates and it comes back out. And that's where you get your sound from. So I'm going to teach 3 chords, right? A G chord, a C chord, a D chord, and a G. So I just repeated the G there. So what you got is your second finger on the low E on the 3rd fret, your first finger on the A string on the 2nd fret, and your 3rd finger or your ring finger on the high E on the 3rd fret. And you want to let it ring out. If you're hearing any notes that aren't ringing out, you may be not pushing down hard enough, or your finger might be pressing that one hard enough while locking the next one down. So you have to arch your fingers and you want to hear it ringing out. Once you're getting it ringing out, you can move on to the next chord. Okay? Now where I find people struggle is they learn the chords, but they struggle with the transition into the next one. So I'm going to break things down piece by piece to get you playing a chord sequence where you feel like you've reached a nice new level. So your G, your next one is your C chord, so it's your ring finger, your 3rd one on the A string. So 3rd finger on the A string on the 3rd fret, your 2nd finger on the D string on the 2nd fret, and your 1st finger on the B string on the 1st fret. And you're not going to play the low E string, you're just going to play it from the 5th down, which gives you a nice C chord. If you play it with the low E, I prefer playing it without the low E. Or what you can do is, when you get further down the line, you can actually play the G note which is beneath it. Don't worry about that if you're not at that stage yet, which is a C, and then you play your D chord, which is 1st finger on the 2nd fret on the G, your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the E, and you get. Now at any point you can stop the video, you can rewind it, and you can hear the explanation of where I'm putting my fingers. I'm going to put a graphic up for a chord box, and that's okay if you understand how chord boxes work. If you don't, this is why I'm explaining it slowly so you know where to put your fingers and you make sure that you're not muting. Muting is when you make the sound where the note doesn't quite come through. So if you don't press hard enough, you don't get that ringing sound. You might get because you're not pressing hard enough. That's muting. You want it to ring all the way through. So you can stop the video and you can go back to the explanation for each chord, or else you can have a look at the graphic where the chord box will be inserted. Once you have that, you have a G, you have a C, and you have a D. And then back to a G. That is in so many songs that once you have that chord pattern and progression down, you'll find that you can hear it in music where you never heard it before. Now, as I said, once you learn these things, people kind of think, well, now I should be on the next level. And you're correct in thinking that. But then you have to learn the transition. Now, what you can do is, you can sit down and you can watch whatever you're watching on the television, be it Netflix, whatever you want to watch on YouTube, and you can sit there knowing that you have the chord fretted and you can just transition between them. Tell yourself what to play, and you don't even have to strum it, because that's the next stage of the lesson. You can just keep having a look. You can be watching what you're watching. You can still hear what's going on, but it's like silent practice. So the transition. Now, it takes a little bit of time to build up to the transition. You'll get there as long as you have patience with yourself. Be kind to yourself and realize where your progress is happening. Just sit there with the 3 chords. You know, I'm going fast on them, but take your time. Everybody had to learn how to drive. And at one stage, you nearly gave it up. But you stuck with it because you knew you wanted to be able to get to your destination. You wanted to be cool in front of your friends. You wanted to pick up your girlfriend or your boyfriend. And you stuck with it because it was necessary to bring your life forward. This is the very, very same. Yeah, maybe you won't get it maybe in a day, maybe in 2 days, maybe in 3 days, but you stick with it, you'll get there. So you just practice your transitions and what your chord is. So you're going from your G to your C, back to your G, to D, to C, to G. And once you know where you're putting your fingers all the time, that's you practicing your transition. So it's 3 levels. You learn the chord, you learn how to transition it, and then the last part is you learn how to strum. This is the part that when you get to, most people throw their arms in the air and they get so frustrated because they just don't know how many times to strum something before they move on to the next part. Well, I've learned a chord, I know how to transition it. How many times am I supposed to strum before I move on? Well, this is the absolute core of how to make music. If you do it the wrong amount of times, it sounds choppy and it doesn't sound quite correct. So I'm going to teach you with what we class as downstroke and an upstroke. So if we think about it like this, down, 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 up, down. That's what you're going to use. So you're going to use down, 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 up, down. That is your strumming pattern. So between these 3 chords, you're going to use down, 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 up, down. So now you put your 3 components together. As I said from the introduction, we take 3 smaller parts which build up into a bigger part. So at the beginning of the video, you may not have known what a G chord, a C chord, or a D chord is. Once you practice them and you're not muting a string, where you're unintentionally muting a string, they're all ringing out to where you want them to ring out. You can transition between them at will, anytime you want. You can call in your head, I want a G, I want a D, I want a C, I want to go back to D, I want to go to G, and finish it off. You've got your transition down, and then you've got your strumming pattern down. Okay, which is, again, it's down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. Okay, so you piece it together and you have down, Now I've stopped there. You can continue on playing it for as long as you like, but that's one strumming pattern down. There are plenty of different ways of strumming for different styles, whether it's fast, slow. You can have anything from rock to folk, to jazz, to rockabilly, country, you name it. So it's all different styles, and the beauty of it is that once you learn your chords, this is where your style will change, with your strumming pattern. Or maybe you're going to pick the notes instead of strumming. But we'll get on to that in time. That's something for you to practice. And there's a lot of information in this first lesson. I haven't started off teaching chords from A, B, C, D. I'm teaching the chords which will jumpstart you into getting to feeling like you're playing a song or playing a pattern. And that's where the payoff is. Once you're playing something, you feel the achievement, And when you pick up a guitar, you're not going through an exercise per se, you're doing what's basically a song. Okay, and that's where the fun is. Once you get that part, we move on to something else, and then you have two parts which move together and you can feel the progression. So we can go through the basics of going from A major, B major, C major, D major, E major, F major, G major, and then all of those in the minors. We can learn all those over time, that's fine. That's all your theory, which is very important. But I wanted in the first lesson for you to feel like when you get to the end of it, you can play something which is very, very similar, if not a song. There are plenty of artists out there that have made a career on those three chords. So now you have your first foot on the ladder now. This is the first step, and you're up there alongside anybody that you can think of that has three chords, the three-chord trick. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, you name it. All those folk guitarists, they're all based around those chords. But you can go through rock bands, they do the same. Country is the same. So you can enjoy those, practice, go back, look at the video, make sure you're getting the notes correct in each chord, strumming pattern correct, and then for silent practice, as long as you're not going to annoy the person sitting next to you, you can do your silent practice whereby you can put your hands over the strings, and what is my chords? And you go back to your transition. I'll go from a C to a D, from a C to a G, etc., etc. Have somebody else tell them those three letters, and have somebody call them out to you, and you can do that at will. And once you get through those transitions, you'll absolutely be picking this up like lightning. So, thanks very much for listening to lesson 1. We'll see you in lesson 2. Enjoy the practice. That's the main thing, is to enjoy it. Okay? And we'll see you in the next lesson. See you next time. Thanks for listening.